All right, we're back. This is Sue with Get Sold, and y'all know Twyla, my amazing guest, and actually uh co-host here, really, because this is us. So I have her to thank for feeling a lot more comfortable doing this. So I owe her a lot. So
Oh, thanks. Thank
I
you for
do,
doing
girl.
that with me. It's very reciprocal.
Well, I'm glad because I knew this is something that had to be done, whether I liked it or not. And I'm just so grateful that, I have a warm, compassionate co-host here to talk about these things and not care. Like we can just rattle on and hey, if people watch, they watch. If they don't, they don't. But there's a process going on for me and maybe for you as well that's healing. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So where do you want to pick up from? Where do you want to continue? Or
Um, we were talking about, you said how you thought that schools should teach the laws of the universe.
oh
I
yes.
100% agree with that because, and I think this is really important for people to hear, that we're all capable of these things. We are all capable of getting this inner knowledge. It's not that someone is different or special or more than anybody else. We all
Right.
have these
Right.
abilities.
Yep. Yep.
However, we have been conditioned and taught to ignore them, fear them, call them weird or not part of the same thing or crazy, or that where people like us are lying or those sorts of things. And that terminology and the way we project that conditioning onto people like us who are out here doing the work and all of that stuff is really detrimental, but we are all capable of it. And that's the only way that we're going to move up in vibration and change consciousness. And for anybody out there who is feeling like that does have abilities and is not really sure what's going on, and they're being told they're crazy and lying and they're hallucinating or any of that stuff, you very well may not be. I'm not a
Right.
doctor. I can't tell you, but I can tell you that maybe that's a time to look into this and developing your skills and learning and understanding and deconditioning. It's
Yeah.
not only, you know, losing your ego, but deconditioning yourself from toxic ideas and um um like, I guess you could say, like, morals, in a sense.
I almost want to say that if you look at everything as being inverted, try the other way.
Yeah.
Try to see if the other way works as not inverting. I mean, it may not, there may be some principles that are intact that still stay with us, like love, you know. I was trying to think. I had a thought process here, but keep going on where you're at because I have something I want to conclude with that, but keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's really important. I think it would be really important to the growth of both society, humanity, and even the economy, and just all the aspects of human experience, if we were really taught these things in school, um and not in like a religious way, because I really feel
Because it's
like school
not.
shouldn't have
Yeah,
religion at all.
it's not at all religion. It's
Yeah.
the mechanics of the universe and how things work, whether we're alive or not, whether we're, a spark of energy floating around or whether we're in a body trying to do a different kind of existence on Earth with a body. So it's like it's not religious. Religious is my mom taught me real young that religion was man-made. And I see that, and she was right. And if you go to the origins, and if any, and I'm not sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, but somebody had an idea how things were, and they began a following, and the rest of the people believed that same thing, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. If that's
Yeah.
how you do you and you get to the best you, go for it. We got to stop fighting over belief systems and man-made ideologies that are away from creator source. When you go right to creator source, we all agree about the same things. We don't want to hurt each other. We want to love. We want abundance. We want to succeed in this game, you know? So the base things we all agree on. How we get there is where everybody, we can't see the catalyst either. What I think is we can't see when people are trying to undermine us because we trust so much. We trust in the outer, not the inner. So I
Yeah.
think most abused people, and I want to use this as an example, most abused people probably believe in conspiracy theories and other realities because their own reality has been so breached. And you almost live two identities. So there's the one that I tell the people because they wouldn't understand what I'm going through. And I almost feel like when you have that understanding, you're more willing to look at more things that will help you, like when a lot of these truths come out, I think people who have had a compromised, childhood because you're brainwashed in a whole different direction, but yet you're still living in a reality. So it's like you're on two personalities or two timelines or something like that. You're more apt to say what else is out there that might be good, that might be
Yeah.
healing or whatever. I don't know if that made sense, but
I
I'm
think
trying
it
to
did.
like go somewhere without going somewhere because I don't want to kind of go on the same, trajectory of the abuse and things like that. But yet at the same time, it's relevant because I find that a lot of people I talk to and a lot of people with abusive backgrounds are empaths. It's like the
Oh,
empaths, from what I was understanding, I heard this recently and it does make sense to me. The reason we have to have so many sensitives and empaths is because we got so far away from that. I mean, look at the medieval times where we hacked each other up just because it was fun or because somebody wanted to be in control. And now we're like trying to save Mother Earth because, wow, things got way out of hand, right? So it's like if you don't have sensitive people to uphold it, yeah, it hurts. It hurts like hell. But if you can
yeah.
get over the fact that some things are going to hurt and you just have to you have to almost like screen out. Like when my email is full of animal advocacy groups, but sometimes when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed or a little weak or something, it's like I can't go through them all because they're going to show me pictures of things like I already know and I don't want to see it. So it's almost like we have to filter a little bit, but still be sensitive and still be empathic and still offer somebody that, you know, help that they can't get somewhere else or whatever, put ourselves out there, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes in too with learning spirituality, deconditioning, the whole journey. I think that's really prevalent to a lot of parts of that and how we are so almost blinded to the things because we are so deeply,
Materialistic.
yeah, deeply pulled away, like it's always about so for me and growing up in my generation, it's always about how we look on a screen, how we look photographically, what our social media says, what it looks like we're doing, like if we're having a grandiose, rich, wealthy life. But, those things are, only at face value.
Yeah.
We don't know the stories behind them. We don't know what's actually going on. And we make these judgments and assessments and observations based on what story that person is creating,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of how to word this, but I have a very strong thought in my mind, and it's only from my experiences in this particular incarnation, we'll say. So we've been so inverted and so conditioned and brainwashed that I remember a time when, all right, so I've mentioned this before in other videos and so forth that, at 9 years old, I was brought up with porn, you know, and I remember being proud of the fact that I could talk like sexually with anybody and not break a sweat, not be embarrassed, not be, I thought it was like a cool thing. Like, wow, I can, carry on with the best of them, male, female, whatever. It's like I know what I'm talking about. And in a sense, it's like now sitting back looking at that, I'm like, why would I want that to be a cool thing? Unless it's divine in nature and it has to do with the beautiful kundalini energy and the breathing and all that stuff. But back then I was raised up on porn, and I didn't, if I said anything anti-porn, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to be uncool. Oh, I don't want to be uncool. And I use that example because it's very much like the music or any of the other things right now. We don't want to be uncool because we're conditioned that cool means, WAP with that singer in your generation, or this generation, I should say, is cool. And you don't want to be the one going, oh, that really, no, that's not what we should be alluding to as a humanity, right? Without judging it. I'm not judging it because we have to have
Yeah.
things that challenge us. We have to have things in our faces that make us determine, wait, where are we on the spectrum? I think if I could say, like, it hit me when I was young that, oh God, this life is to learn. Like this whole life thing is not to have fun and party and like get your rocks off and like I it wasn't for me about wealth. It was just about relationships and people and like, playing the game and all that stuff, almost like a player, but not a player, because I didn't want to connect. But it's almost like everybody has their little thing, whether it's their car or their fancy place or this. It's not about the material thing. So it was sobering for me as a spiritual person to really go, wow, geez, this whole life is really about learning. That's not fun. But once you get out of that, get out of your way, you realize what you're really here to do, then it's like, all right, what do I gotta do? I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense, but it's like getting out of that mindset of material, and we're just here to be one dimensional in a sense. We're just here to collect wealth. We're just here to, party and just, you know.
Yeah. And I think too, um, trying to think of how to say this. Um, I think that we yearn so deeply to belong and
Yes.
to fit in and to mold ourselves into what we're conditioned to understand is accepted in societal roles,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we forget to look inside ourselves and look for our tribe almost, you
Yeah.
know?
But we don't even question
Yeah.
unless someone's hurt by it. Like I was hurt by porn, but at the same time, I wanted to be in the industry because I said, well, this is what everybody thinks is cool. So this is where
Right.
that's what I should aspire to. And then my mother would say to me, well, next life, I'm going to be a high priced call girl. So these were the messages I was getting. So in my world, that was cool. Right. That's where I wanted to,
Yeah.
but my body or my this or my that was like always stumbling, like, no, it's not meant to be for you. It's not meant to be. You'll see why later. But it's like that we don't question who's telling us these things. We don't question what they're
Yeah.
putting in the music. We don't question the vibration that the music's at. We don't question the things that, the Wi-Fi, the danger of the Wi-Fi, in our ears 24/7 or in front of our faces with the blue light. We don't question any of it. We just
Yeah.
want to be in our little lives, and that's what they expect of us. Be in your little lives, do your little happy entertainment things, and you won't know what's going on around you. The earth is going to be falling apart behind your ass, and you're just going to fall down with it and whatever, And it's like, no.
Yeah. And I also think that has a lot to do with external sources and beings in power
Yes,
wanting to control us,
all of it.
because
Yeah.
knowledge and asking these questions and looking for the answers and going within ourselves gives us a personal power where we can no longer be manipulated for failing systems or
Mhm.
um energetic hate or using each other against each other. And I think that's really prevalent, especially in today's landscape. um I think that it's really important that we all kind of take this time to step back and observe and ask
Mhm.
ourselves the hard questions and go in search of those answers, um, so that we can change and kind of almost eradicate hate.
Yeah. It's almost like
Yeah.
the tough love part of it is, hey, this ain't the world that you want it to be anymore. A lot of us, most of us at some point agree that it's going to be a better place. So you can either stay or you can go. But if it's going to be a better place, you got to buck up and you got to do some work. And this is what it involves. If you don't, then there's a place
Yeah.
for you. It's almost like that's kind of where we're at, where all right, you've had your fun, you've done your, exploring and done all this stuff. Well, it's changing now because it was written in the stars a long time ago, and this is now. So,
Yeah. And I mean, and I think that also goes back to like, our own soul contracts and like understanding even if we do have hate and anger in our hearts, that doesn't necessarily make us a bad person or a bad energetic soul. It's just showing us that there are things that we need to work on and heal, and that we do need to take a step back and we do need to look for those answers, and that we do have to go in within ourselves deeper to find them, and to not only improve our own personal world and our
hmm
own personal lives and our own human experiences,
hmm
but also the people around us. And like we've talked about before, that ripple effect,
yeah, yep,
that really comes into play here. And I think it's really important that we talk about this, because I feel like not enough people are talking about these things
hmm
and trying. I mean, you don't have to be a whiz at it. All you have to do is try.
yep. Yep. You're gonna fall on your face probably 9 times out of 10. But it's
Oh
that
yeah.
10th time that's gonna liberate you and not and bring you up a notch to where you can breathe more and you will get more light energy. And what a difference it is between the dark and the light. The integration thing that we always talk about where you can accept the dark in yourself. You're always going to have it, but now we don't have to run from it.
Yeah.
We were taught to run from it so that the dark could control us. So if we're running from the dark in ourselves, we're sure not going to call them to be accountable. As part of the collective consciousness is evil, but evil in ourselves, we don't want to look at. And there's always going to be a purpose. And I had to figure this out for myself too. Like, when we understand eye for an eye, if somebody's coming after us, we have the right to defend ourselves. It's best to try to find a nonviolent approach because you don't want to build up karma. You don't want to invite karma back into your life. So if you can make a smart ass remark and get out of it, or go the other way, turn the cheek, whatever, great, you're better for it. But there is a time and place where you may have to respond in a way. Like I learned through the negative entities when I was told you got to yell at them, and because I was like, oh, well, I want to love you away, like you don't like love, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna do love it. Or sometimes there's like laughing and just like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
coming in for another round, and you're like, all right, that's it,
Yeah.
I don't know, you know
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, and it's too that energy matching sometimes. Like you can't always fight fire with water. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire.
Yeah, like I have heard so many different schools of thought on that too. Like I guess when you don't have to, then it never comes into your world. When you go so,
Yes.
your frequency is so high up, you're looking down, not looking down like in a judgy way, but just going, I don't have to deal with that anymore. I don't have, and that's where we're all going, where we don't have to deal with it anymore. But when we do deal with some of our dark, they may come hunting around until integrate that dark. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No,
you
I think
know,
that was said quite beautifully, actually.
okay.
And I definitely agree with that. And as a person in this life who really likes to be like positivity, positivity, love and light, positivity, it has been a challenge for me personally to um acknowledge my darker sides and the darker deeds that I've done, not only in this life but in past lives. And I'm not sure if that's the Palladian in me that just wants to be like love and light, happiness,
Yeah,
joy, woohoo.
most definitely, yes, because I have that part too, and that's why I avoided it for so long. Like I didn't do, like I needed somebody hardcore to walk me through the shadow work, and I got my ass kicked to Kingdom Come. I did, and I know I
Yeah.
got some PTSD, which I'm working on now from that whole experience, because you don't ever want to look at yourself like if you're basically good human being, you can't imagine some of the horrific things that go on in the world. And so you don't believe them because you don't believe that it exists in you because you
Yeah.
wouldn't do that. You're using your free will for good. But if you ever had to defend somebody, a child or something in a situation, you can reach into that, dark
Hmm.
and be like, no, that's not happening. I'm going to protect this kid or whatever has happened. But
Yeah.
we are just taught to completely ignore it, even in our religious systems, it's calculated in certain ways where you just can't acknowledge that you are light and dark. You have to be, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go round and
Absolutely.
round going, why can't we all just live in unconditional love? And then I would get the
Right?
because chaos, dark is chaos, and from chaos comes creation. And I'm like, yeah, but no, I still just want unconditional love. Why do we have to deal with this
Yeah.
mean stuff? But once
Yeah.
you integrate it and then you understand the dark, I'll tell you, my two biggest teachers with that integration thing was, of course, Ingrid with the shadow work, but also Soul 2K. Because when
Yeah.
he, at 5 years old, didn't want to tell me that he loves these creepy Five Nights at Fridays thing, which I thought was absolutely horrendous when I first saw it. I'm like, he's 5 and his dad is letting him watch this, and I was just like, oh my, I was horrified. But I didn't let on because I was going through the shadow work at that time. And he said, I didn't want you to see me watching that because I didn't think you'd accept me. And I was blown away. I'm like, wow, am I being schooled right now by a 5 year old? And I said at that point, if this were a different time and I wasn't going through shadow work, I would be disgusted and I would have been judgmental. I would have said that's not anything that a 5 year old should be seeing. It'll give him nightmares. But he was like, knowing now who he is, and dealing with all of that, all of us, in the cosmos or whatever, it's like, that's nothing to him. That's absolutely nothing to him. He's more worried about fixing his one issue of abandonment, that he told me about at 6.5, and that's it. He's good. It's going to take him a year, and then he's done with it. It's like,
Yeah.
but demons and negative entities, he's just like so nonchalant about it. So he taught me too, like, if he's a 5 year old, how could I negate any part of him? How could I do that? So how could we do that with each other if we're all God's creatures, if we're all sparks of light? How can we then pick and choose? Well, I'm gonna like this about you, Twyla, but because you did those witchy pictures on me, which I did too on my own, but something like that, and say, well, you're whatever pagan and you don't believe in creator source because you think this is better. It's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah. I think too we project a lot of our own um insecurities and self-hate and fears and
Yes, yes.
judgment on others,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and it is
I
hard not to.
and I
It
think
really
part of
is.
the fear, what came to me was part of the fear is people feel, maybe subconsciously because we've gone through it as a collective, fearful of the control of the other person. So if they know something you don't and they can mysteriously or magically do something to you, because we've all gone through it. We've done it to
Mhm.
each other. We've been victims of it and we have victimized others through doing spells, through doing controlling energy and all this other stuff. So clearly that person who was calling you out for those things clearly has, I mean, obviously was to show you and help you clear, but for them to be that like, you know,
Yeah.
keyhole about it, it's like, wow, that's
Yeah. And I think it's important to embrace that darker side of ourselves and um love it just as unconditionally as we love our light sides. And I think a
yeah,
lot of people struggle. I know I struggle with that all the time. I'm like, how can I be so love and light and unconditional love and do all these things for all these people? But then at the end of the day, sometimes I'm just like, dark Twyla. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, it is what it is. It's okay
Yeah.
to
Well,
have that.
I guess I look at it now in that example of having to save somebody. Maybe everybody's responsible for saving themselves. I get that. But if you want to use your light, sometimes you have to use your dark. And that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
For the right reasons, you know? Um,
Yes.
and if you deny it altogether, then you're denying a power that you have that could be used for good. You know, it may appear dark what you're doing or something like that, but if the intention and the end result winds up being of the light, then what if you denied the dark altogether? You know, like I remember feeling like that like you said, the love and light, spiritual person who could only wanted unconditional love. I had a lot of schooling to do. And I think if people understand the shadow work is the most profound tool, I guess, to integrating your light and dark, I will ever be grateful. I mean, forever be grateful that Ingrid was my teacher. She didn't have anybody. So it's like I could not have done it alone. It was
Yeah.
horrifying. It was I didn't even want to live at times. I was like, if this is what this world is made of, and this is what I have to be, or a part took part in, or whatever, I don't even want to be here. But you can't run from it. Like we're not meant to run from this stuff because it'll all confront us in the next soul contract, and we know this from a soul level. We just don't remember
Yeah.
it from the human level because we're always
Yeah.
trying to do the easy thing. We're always trying to take short, at least I always was, take shortcuts, easy thing. I want to spend my time on fun stuff, not the
Yeah.
work.
And I really think you said it perfectly with having to remember. I mean, that's really the gist of it. We have to remember. How
Hmm.
do we make ourselves remember? How do we go through these things to remember? And
Yeah.
that's by doing the shadow work, the healing, integrating all of our past lives and releasing these fears and anxieties and emotions
Yep.
that are there to teach us. That's
I think
really,
the other big thing that I learned that was in my face is relationships. I had
yeah,
seen it written somewhere. The reason for relationships is for your own healing, is for your
yeah,
own edification. And you may stay with somebody for a long time. They may just come and go in your life for a minute, but whatever the duration, they're there to pinpoint things in you, to shine that light in you, put the mirror at you, and that's why we feel bonded with people. That's why we get connections with people, whether it's twin flame, whether it's soul, whatever you want to call it, whatever the purpose is. Every relationship that you have near you is showing you something. And it
yeah,
always used to, as a kid, it always used to blow my mind because I always thought to myself, it's how is it the norm that people like pair bond forever for an entire lifetime when relationships are meant to show you things. So if that's meant to show you things, then generally once you've learned the lesson, you're not going to be with that person. You could be friends, they could be in your world somewhere, but they're not that pivotal person they was because now you got through the lesson. So it's almost
yeah,
like the soul determines all of this stuff. We're just a happy human that follows along with it, until we can make the connection. Oh, that's my soul that wants this to happen so I can experience it for both of us and for creator source, all three of us, we're all in a little group here. So
yeah. I think that's really prevalent. And also, what I've noticed in regards to relationships, and this has happened to me so many times that it took me a long time to learn this, and I'm still learning it, I think. Is that so? You will be sent someone. So let's call the person Terry, and you go through all these things with Terry, and all of this stuff happens, and you didn't learn from it, right? You didn't.
hmm
And then this person exits your life, you kick them out, whatever. However, things go down, it doesn't end well. And then someone with the same exact name is
exactly. Yep.
presented a second time, and
hmm
you start the cycle over.
Yep.
And if you don't recognize that cycle,
hmm
then it happens a third time until you recognize that cycle and learn. And it's so interesting because really it's really interesting because like emotions are learning, relationships are learning. I mean,
Hmm.
it all comes back to learning and
And it's learning, like we talked about, your thought processes. You're going to have that
yeah.
relationship because they're going to show you a thought process that you think about yourself. You know, if this person's
Mhm.
domineering and they bully you or they boss you around or something like that, there's going to be a root cause as to why you think you need that in your life rather than being,
Yeah.
equals with each other. Wow,
Yeah.
I can't believe how fast this one blew through. We're like at 33
Right?
minutes. Wow,
Wow.
this is insane, but cool.
Good talking. That's what it is.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you know what? Sometime I think I want to try something fun with you where we actually take like headlines or something, and we talk about like our opinions on it or something. You know what I mean? Like I've always wanted to do that where we just grab, okay, here's what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
How can we put either a spiritual twist to it or just our own sort of like, I don't know, we should have a right to just have our opinions too sometimes,
Yeah. Just thoughts
We're
and feelings.
we're doing our best to use our own lives as, like an open book for here's what we learned, here's the principle that, we explored or whatever. But sometimes, I don't know, I read stuff and I'm like, I want to say something about that. I don't know, just
Right?
some
I
of these
think
funny
that more
things.
often than
I
I should.
I would really love to have a long conversation or a conversation about when you mentioned the I never say the letters right, LB that
LGBTQ?
yeah, because I know I want to I'm strong enough now because of you on film where I feel like, yeah, I want to talk about that because I remember when way back, I've always been like a friend of all my male friends that came out that were gay. It was like such a scary thing back in the 80s. Like, and I'm bringing
Yeah.
them to the first gay bar, I'm like, come on, let's go, come on, my little flock, each one coming to me and in shock, like, that's something I have to tell you. I'm like, what? I'm not
Yeah.
gay. I'm like, I know. It's just like,
Right?
I was that one and I hated the word fag hag. I hated that. But I would
Oh
love
my
to
gosh,
spend,
right?
maybe we could do, another show on just talking about that because it does appall me what's happening with, I want to say, the demonic agenda. I'm just going to say it that way, where, they're making children decide what they want to be and all this stuff instead of like my one of my dear friends
Yeah.
is now uh transitioning, and I'm so happy about it because back when he was walking around in dresses and stuff, I was like, I wish I had your courage. I wish I
Yeah.
had one piece of the courage that you show when you walk around our neighborhood. This was years ago, like in the 90s, and now she's finally transitioning, and she does drag and stuff, but I mean she's well of the age and it has nothing to do with kids, and I enjoy it, you know
Yeah.
as an adult. Kids have nothing to do with it. So why,
Yeah.
why is this happening? I know why. Because of the
Listen.
agenda, because of the stuff we don't believe. We don't believe in evil. We don't believe that there's actually a force running behind the thing. So we have to talk about it in an inverted way, like negative entities, instead of just calling it what it is, loyalty to a different religion, which has the
Mm-hmm.
power of our earth for thousands of years. Everybody
Yeah.
would say, oh, hell is down here, heaven's up there. No, sweetheart, we're in hell. This is hell. You just
Yeah.
didn't weren't told. You weren't told the rules of the game. So you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you believe everything that was taught to you because they're the ones running the show and they're,
Yep.
loyalists and whatever, put the policies in place. Uh, you
And that
know,
goes with that conditioning too.
mhm.
Absolutely. And
So
I just want to say, I don't know who needs to hear this, but I feel like the world needs to hear this. Members of the LGBTQ community are just trying to exist, nothing more. We are
yes.
all, like you,
Hmm.
just trying to exist.
The
The
thing,
same goes
yeah,
for everybody.
yes. And the thing is, what people don't realize is that you've been everything at some point. I don't care who you are. I remember lifetimes as a beautiful Black woman named Amma. who babysat the children when I was in Africa while they were out in the fields. I embrace that. We were all everything. So for us to sit here and be judgmental is like, wake up. You were whatever you don't like right now, or whatever you
Mm-hmm.
think you don't like. You were that. And you didn't like
Mm-hmm.
it then, and now you're going to pin somebody else for it? No, you do your work. You know, you do your work. Sorry, getting a little bossy there.
No, I agree with that. And I am not a wealthy woman, but if anybody needs help or needs somehow to escape from a current place that is full of hate and violence towards them,
Yes.
um, you know, there are resources, there are people. Find me. I don't know what I will do, but I will do something. I will figure it out. I am married to a very handsome trans man who I am very proud of. My grandmother's brother was a trans woman, so I grew up with this. I have gay family members. At one time, I was gay. Um,
Or
and
by, whatever you want to say.
yeah,
Yep.
so
Yep.
I'm pan. So personally, for me in my life, I don't fall for plumbing. I fall for the soul that is in front of me, which I
Thank
think is
you.
beautiful.
That's what I always said. It's the person, not the body.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Oh,
I
God.
could care less what plumbing, where you got it from, whether it was man-made, born with it, bought at a store, or that's just what you originally came with from your manufacturer. I could
Yes.
care less.
Yes.
I will like a person for the soul I see in front of me. And
Exactly. Yep.
that makes people uncomfortable because many sensitives, many empaths, we see through the facade of the bullshit.
We have like
Excuse my French.
1 minute left. Do you want to do one more? You want to go
Yeah, we'll
off?
do one more because I think this is important.
I do too, to be honest with you. It's been brewing in me for a long time because I feel it
Yes,
does. All right.
good.
So okay, we're out and we're gonna do the next video. See ya on the next video, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.